All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. As you will know, every week we try to bring you up to speed on the goings on in the world of pop culture with our weekly podcast known as This Week in Pop Culture, trying to bring you up to speed of what's been going on in the past week so that way you're not left in the wind. And of course, I'm not going to be alone in talking about these said topics. So without further ado, I want to welcome my co-host, my partner in crime, Mr. Spillman Trueheart, aka Spills. What's going on, sir?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to day year 339, day
Uh-oh.
364 of your boy. So, these are big things. I don't duck the birthday shows, ladies and gentlemen. I come on my birthday.
Oh,
I
yeah. And
make
of
time
course,
for
happy
you,
early
ladies and
birthday.
gentlemen.
Yes, appreciate it, sir.
No, the show must go on, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all don't care about my birthday. Y'all want to see us do
We
this show.
care.
So, yeah. What's up, Brandon?
What's up, man? So Spillman, we had a couple of things that went down this week. Of course, as you can see in the background, we did have the confirmation of an amusement park that is local to our area. If you know that we do our show from the DC metropolitan area, and we did have a local amusement park that did announce that it will be closing its doors at the end of this year. So we will be sure to dive into that. But we did have a couple of other things that happened as well, whether we're talking about film and TV, daily news, and even some sports, Spillman, some sports as well. So, without further ado, Spills, shall we dive in?
Let's get it.
Okay, let's get.
Oh, looks like we lost Brandon for a second. Maybe he's still here, but before we go into the first show, I want you, ladies and gentlemen, to remember that I
You
didn't
didn't
duck
lose me. No, we're gonna get
at
there. We're
all.
gonna get there. No, 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 no.
That's
No, we're
right,
gonna get
ladies and
there, sir.
gentlemen.
We're
I
gonna
just
get
want y'all to know.
there. But as I said, we're going to start first by talking some sports. We did have, of course, the NBA playoffs that's continuing to go on as we speak, and we did have the wrap up of some first round matchups and some confirmations now of some of our conference semifinal matchups. So, Spillman, I wanted to be able to dive in and do a preview, if you will, of some of those semifinal matchups to get your thoughts on who you feel is going to move forward. So let me pull up the screen now. We do have a look here of some of the first rounds that did wrap up. Of course, we had on Tuesday. We had the wrap up of who was it, the Bucks and the Pacers. And on Thursday, we had the wrap up of the Knicks and the Pistons. The Pacers were able to get past the Bucks and will be moving on to the semifinal round against the Cavaliers. The Knicks were able to conclude, their matchup, with the Pistons. But we also had one other casualty that happened in the first round, Spillman. So, I'm going to give you the floor. Care to share?
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a concept in team building. They have a concept that they call, roster construction. And when
Okay.
you construct a roster, there's
Okay.
some positions that are important. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we do live in a modern NBA era, ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen. They say, the three ball is the most important shot in basketball right now. That's what everybody
Yes, sir.
says. They say
Yes, sir.
that you don't have
Uh-huh.
to play big. You
Uh-huh.
don't have to do that.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, we tried to address this issue earlier this year, but, we had a player that got sent to us that was, not healthy. And he want to
Oh
solve this
wow.
problem because he's still playing right now. I feel like we should have just picked him up and said, whatever, we're gonna roll the dice with you, big fella. We
Okay.
need a center. We're gonna pick
Okay.
one up off the pile. Um, he tweeted out a smiley face when we lost. I was
Oh
pretty
yeah,
sad
no, I
about
saw
that.
that. I saw
He
that.
tweeted out a smiley face. It's like
but
when you
but
go on one date with somebody and you just mess it up. We just messed that one date up with him. And it's sad, Mark Williams. We miss you. We wish we could have had you. That was a misstep. Uh, you know, that game was bad, but the Timberwolves are better than us. That boy was punking us. I don't have nothing else to say. The boy is good. Anthony Edwards. I underestimated you.
hey, he
I
wants to smoke.
apologize.
He clearly wants to smoke.
I feel like you only bring the smoke like that when you know you're gonna win, and he clearly knew he was gonna win because he don't act like that. He didn't act like that in the conference finals last year. He didn't act like that. He was like, "Oh, this team is better than us."
But
But
here's I was gonna say here's the thing, Spill. All jokes aside, I joke and talk about the Lakers. I actually had them winning against the Mavs. They had a lot of momentum coming into the playoffs, and as much as I gripe on all the issues that I have with that team, I can't deny the fact that they had momentum, and momentum is something that works in your favor. When you're entering the playoffs, and you want to have everything kind of working in your favor and all the wheels spinning, in the way that it needs to as you're entering the postseason. And it seemed like they had that going for them more so than the Timberwolves. But, just as you
we
said,
was
when we
only a
talk,
game better than them, ladies and gentlemen. They only lost one more game than we did, so they're a good team. I don't know, you know, they got one of the best players in the world right now, and he was on revenge. I feel like Luka and LeBron, they were still figuring it out.
but I would say this is why I had them going past the T Wolves. I feel like I'll give you credit with this, or I say I'll give your team credit with this, is that I feel like they're ahead of schedule in terms of them trying to figure out how to play together. If anything, I think it just goes back to a gentleman named Nico Harrison who was like, okay, I need, yeah, you're a great player, but you're a great player on one side of the ball, and you can't
They
be able
very
to
much
do.
showed
You
up
can't
for
be able to do
sure.
that on the defensive end. And again, we've talked about this a lot across all sports, Billman. When we're talking about the postseason, yeah, during the regular season, you can get by with the offense. But when it comes down to really getting down to the grit, when you're in that postseason, especially when we're talking about the NBA, when it's not one game, it's an entire series, and
Oh
teams
yeah.
start to figure you out and really try to, dive deep into what those matchup issues are, then weaknesses end up getting exposed. And if you're not a great defensive team, you're going to get exposed. So,
It was just bad. And JJ stopped coaching also. We don't want to we don't want
oh,
to
not
beat a dead
JJ,
horse.
not
JJ
JJ,
stopped
not
coaching. Like
Pat Riley, not
I
Pat
just
Riley.
we were like running six man rotations. What's that about? That's not that's crazy. We got all these guys, they're not NBA players now. We was winning all them games playing them guys. Now we can't play them.
Hey,
It
you
just
know, you know, Pat Riley's trying to figure out his way. Pat Riley 2.0 trying to figure out his way.
I
I don't
mean,
know what to tell you.
I wouldn't call him Pat Riley just as of yet.
Hey,
But
I didn't say that. That's what your organization was trying to say he was going to be. Is Pat Riley, 2.0. Oh,
he's
it
gonna get
reminds me of
fired.
Pat
He's gonna get
Riley. Even
fired.
though,
Watch.
like, when we talking
Watch, because
about
it's
that
Luca's
coaching
team
experience,
now. It's Luca's team now. They're gonna fire him, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be like, "Hey, we got you for LeBron. We're not worried about LeBron anymore." So,
but let me ask this: with all of that aside, and talking about what we have with our current matchups that we know we're going to have, we have what the Thunder and the Nuggets now. I think that is probably going to be is going to determine who, and you may disagree with me, but I feel like this particular series will determine who will be representing the West. Um, the Nuggets have been inconsistent throughout the entire year. I feel like there have been times where they've gone on runs, there have been times where they've struggled, there have been times they've gone on runs and back and forth and back and forth. And I don't know. I feel like in the last series that they had, sometimes some teams need those certain series to kind of wake them up, to kind of get them going. And I feel like that Clipper series might have been what they needed in order to get past the Thunder, because I feel like if they saw the Thunder in the first round, it I don't think they would have gotten past them. But sometimes you need a series before that to kind of get you into that mindset before you take on the next challenge. I don't think that this is going. I think this is going to be a series. I don't think that this is going to be a gentleman's sweep or a sweep by any means. And as much as the Thunder have been consistent throughout the entire year, I still feel like the Nuggets have a shot to get past them. I don't know how you feel.
I feel like this is a question of
Who wants some more?
what is Jamal going to do? Because if Jamal can
Yeah.
show up,
Yep.
because
Yep.
Westbrook looks like he's cooking, he's looking like a young Vinny Johnson out there microwaving. As you can see down here, ladies and gentlemen, he still got it. Westbrook has still got it.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of Westbrook naysayers out there. People like to say bad about his career and everything,
You just
but
have to
that's
put
one
him in the
thing he
right
don't do.
situation.
He show up when it's big games. That
Yeah.
only game that they won many, many, many years ago with the Thunder in the finals, he scored 42. Not Kevin Durant, not James Harden. Them guys was invisible. Russell put
Yeah.
that team on his back. He said, "No, we're gonna win this game, fellas. We gotta win this game." So the way he played against those Clippers last night, oh, did you like when he gave himself the tech? Did you see that? He was hanging on the rim. Oh! Then when he got down, ladies and gentlemen, he said, "Tech me up. Let's go."
One thing that that we can both agree on when we're talking about Russell Westbrook, unlike when we talk about this a lot on the show, when it comes to the NBA, where a lot of players are maybe holding back or they're sitting out games, whether it's a regular season game, whether it's a postseason game, he's going to give it his all. And that's one thing that you can appreciate when you're talking about Westbrook, is that he's not going to hold back. He's going to put as much effort as he can, whether it's a regular season game, whether it's a postseason game. So, um, now getting into the other semifinal matchup, of course, the Wolves are waiting for the results of the Rockets and the Warriors. Um, do you feel? What do you see there? All biases aside, do you feel like the Warriors are going to get past the Rockets, or do you feel like this is the Rockets' year to be able to make some noise?
They just got two in a row on y'all, ladies and gentlemen. They got
They
two in a
did.
row.
They did.
And I feel like
Undeniably.
they figured y'all out. They figured out y'all, and it's been by
And
about 10
they're young and
points.
athletic. So I mean, I don't know. Like they have all the tools necessary. The only thing that I feel like is against them is the idea that they don't have they don't have a lot of experience or veteran leadership when we're talking about the postseason. They're kind of just playing as hard as they can and seeing where they fall, where they land. But yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't see this series going as far as it did. If anything, I thought that it would have been done in 6 games, but they're showing me something else. Whenever we're talking
They
about games,
showed you why they was a two seed. They wasn't going to go quietly into the darkness like the
no, they
Lakers
weren't.
did.
No, they weren't. So at the end of the day, of course, while I want to see my Warriors get past them, when we're talking about game sevens, it really is about who wants it more, because I feel like it's the same thing that happened when we were talking about the Nuggets and the Clippers. I feel like they were evenly matched because they were going back and forth, and the Clippers could have gotten past them, but the Nuggets wanted it more, and they blew them out in that last game because
Yeah.
they simply wanted it more. And I feel like there were a lot of things that played into that. Of course, you have the drama with Coach Malone and how that all went down, which I felt was kind of messed up. And I'm sure that was in the back of their minds in thinking about this game seven and how all these narratives would have sparked up with them losing in the first round, and also having their head coach get let go. So, but moving over to the East, Spills, we have, of course, the the Cavs and the Pacers, I'm not gonna lie. This seems like a foregone conclusion. I have the Cavaliers getting past the Pacers. I don't believe that it's going to be a sweep. I feel like it will go at least possibly 6 games, but I still have the Cavs getting past. What are your thoughts?
I think the Cavs are going to get past simply because the Pacers are going to be looking back at the Bucks series with the way that series ended. A lot of times when you have something controversial like that in the next round, the team will generally like just still be like their minds are still on Tyrese Halliburton's outburst and then the issues with Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Sure, sure,
And also the Cavs have been steamrolling all year. I don't feel like like they just don't match up
exactly,
well against them.
exactly.
Like Big Jared Allen's going to stop Miles Turner. And then they've got the two-headed monster at the guard spots to deal with Tyrese Halliburton. And I don't know nobody. Oh, they got Pascal Siakam, but you can't count on that guy not to lead your team. He could be like your second or third best player for sure, but
Yeah,
I don't see it. I unfortunately don't see it. Shout out to my homeboy Ian. He's a huge Pacers fan, and all my Naptown Mafia. They're out there. I'm down with the Naptown people, but unfortunately, I don't see the Pacers going past this. They're just mismatched in this way with the Cavaliers, and the Cavaliers they just got better
they're just
horses.
rolling. They're just
Yeah, they
rolling.
just got better horses.
Yeah, so and I mean I feel like it's going to be the same thing similarly with the Knicks and the Celtics in that the Knicks have had a great run. Unfortunately, I still feel and we talked about this before the nature of how their lineup is utilized in games. I feel like it's not going to work in their favor going against the Celtics. They're already kind of running to the ground in terms of the way in which they play. You were just talking about the Lakers and that situation of only having that 6-person lineup. This is far more extreme, with the Knicks. So even under those circumstances, I feel like under normal circumstances that they would have a slim shot against the Celtics, but I feel like that is heightened even more with the fact that that they only play a certain number of folks in their lineup. I just feel like this is just a delay before we get our Cavs and Celtics matchup, because that I feel like that is going to be a far more interesting matchup
Oh, for
of,
sure.
of who's going to get out of the East, because I feel like it can go either way. I don't know how you feel, but even though the Celtics are the defending champions, the Cavaliers have just been having such an incredible season through the regular season and through this postseason. So, it's hard to bet against them in terms of seeing them represent the Eastern Conference when it's all said and done.
I hate to say this, but I think the Celtics are going to be the team for the Eastern Conference in the finals. I do like the way that the Cavs are constructed, but I don't think that they can beat the Celtics because the Celtics just have so many weapons that they could throw at you. Um, they've got uh, uh, Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum. Those
Tatum.
guys are
Hmm.
terrific.
Yeah,
Um, they've got the two great defensive guards, White and
they do.
yeah. So it's just like they're gonna put those and you know they're gonna put them on the guards for the Cavaliers and all that cute run people out the gym stuff that they do and all that scoring. It's not going to be working that way. So I don't
Yeah,
see
but
anything but the Celtics making it through. And I haven't even talked about Kristaps or Al Horford. So
you
they'll
didn't.
be
You
dealing with
didn't.
the big boys too. Like,
You
they
didn't.
may have the depoy at the Cavaliers, but all them boys could be on the defensive all defensive team on the Celtics. So I don't know.
And I understand all those arguments that you make, and they sound great on paper. I guess the only thing that I would bring to your attention is, again, going back to that concept of defense, like with a lot of the front line or front court players that they have, the centers and forwards that they have on that team, they've been able to demonstrate that they can get stops. And again, that is something that you need when you're talking about the postseason. Is, yeah, you need to be able to score, and they have scores on that team, but you also need to be able to stop the other team. And I feel like they had the tools necessary to be able to accomplish that. It's not going to be an easy challenge by no means, as you said, with all the weapons that the Celtics do have. But if any team has a shot of knocking them off, I feel like the Cavs do. So it will definitely be interesting to see, what comes of those two teams in that matchup. Because I mean, I'm just gonna just call it now that those will be our two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals, who will eventually, of course, when it's all said and done, be representing the Eastern Conference for the finals. But with that out of the way, I want to punt it out to you guys. If you guys have any thoughts, those of you who have heard this discussion between us, what your thoughts are on the NBA playoffs, who you have, and some of those matchups, be sure to let us know. So we're going to switch gears, Spillman, to our daily news roundup. And when we're talking about our daily news wrap up, we did have some news surrounding, UPS, and fortunately, it's not the best news. It was this past week that it was announced that 20,000 jobs would be cut by UPS. And just to go into more specifics, this was announced Tuesday by the shipping company that it was a part of, or should say that it will be a part of a cost-cutting effort that is linked to the delivery giant's decision to deliver fewer packages from Amazon, its biggest customer. Additionally, in addition to these job cuts, the company announced that it will also close 73 of its buildings by the end of June 2025. And they also said that it might target additional buildings for closure. There are a number of factors that likely have played into this decision, one of which uh, apparently enable UPS to expand its U.S. domestic operating margin and increase profitability. This was according to the UPS's chief financial officer, Brian Dykes. However, another factor that has contributed to this decision stems from, and this is according to a story from CBS News, shifts in global trade policy that it could have on the carrier. According to CEO Carol Tone, and this is from last year, revenue on its China to U.S. trade lanes represented 11% of total international revenue. She went on to say during a earnings call that she had on Tuesday that China to U.S. trade lines are the most profitable trade lines for the carrier. Though UPS is keeping customers abreast of tariff developments on its website, utilizing a tool called UPS Global Checkout, is still a challenging prospect. So, Spillman, I want to get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on UPS making this announcements regarding its employees and its job situation?
I just think that this is what happens. They cut those 20,000 jobs. They say it's because of Amazon, but really it's because they just negotiated for more money for the employees. So they said they was going to give people $100,000, but you know, they didn't say which people they was going to give it to. So,
Wow.
um, hate to be, pessimistic like that, but they did just say that they was going to have to do that. So I think that, obviously that business that they're losing with Amazon, I think they said that they would take a quarter less. And all of you listening, and myself included, we get Amazon packages all the time. So to lose that much business, I can see how they would have to shrink the workforce. Um, but this is Very sad. Shout out to all my UPS worker friends and family and everybody out there that rocks the khaki brown, you know.
Yeah,
Um, Hope it works out for you guys. Sadly, this is what they're doing. They're downsizing, ladies and gentlemen. They're getting people up out of here. It's very
yeah.
sad
I
to see.
mean, I'll say this, and it's never good to hear about the possibility of people losing their jobs, especially in the current climate that we have right now with all the inflation that's happening, with how expensive everyday things have become. There is a silver lining that I do want to bring up, and it's in that, and this was also according to, this is a shout out to CBS News and in the store that they had, that Amazon was willing to increase UPS's volumes before the delivery company made the decision to reduce its Amazon shipments. Um, in fact, Amazon spokesperson Kelly Nantle had said the following. She said, due to their operational needs, this being UPS requested a reduction in volume, and we respect their decision. So, there wasn't anything issue between UPS and Amazon regarding their decision to cut back on the volume of Amazon packages. It really is in UPS's court to make that decision. But as they stated, they're trying to keep an eye on the operational needs, which also tells me that when you have fewer people, you want to make sure that you're able to operate smoothly with fewer people. And when you have fewer people, it makes it harder to deal with a larger volume of packages that need to be processed and sent to wherever. Um, One thing that is interesting, though, and also talking about this that story from CBS News, is that apparently these 30,000 of those UPS jobs are Teamster jobs. So, and this was according to Sean M. O'Brien, who's the Teamsters general president. Um, UPS is contractually obligated to create 30,000 Teamster jobs under the current national master agreement that they have. So they made the statement, or say he made the statement of saying, if UPS wants to continue, and this is kind of to your point, Spillman, if UPS wants to continue to downsize corporate management, the Teamsters won't stand in its way. However, if the company intends to violate our contract or make any attempts to go after hard fought, good paying Teamster jobs, UPS will be in for a hell of a fight. So, I mean, yeah, they're making an announcement that this is going to be something that may happen. However, they may be in for more than what they could chew by making this decision too. So it's a still ongoing story to see if that may discourage UPS from making this decision.
Yep, I agree. We just gotta in this country. People need jobs, ladies and gentlemen. You know, you want to keep somebody from taking your car radio. Maybe make sure they have a car radio. If we all had something, we wouldn't want to take from everybody. But that's a different show than the one we're on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get back to the hits.
For sure, for sure. So we're gonna switch gears to our trailer alley, and I'm gonna see if I can get this
is, Michael Hall is from a different show. We're not doing that one. I'm sorry. We're very interested in the new ensemble members. Obviously, we have here Mila Kunis, and then
That,
obviously
that's not Mila Kunis.
that's not Mila Kunis.
No.
Oh, okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm wrong.
Yeah, newcomer there, but
Okay,
but uh but just I was gonna say, just in general, have you had a chance? Have you seen the other two installments?
of course.
Okay.
With your boy Woody Harrelson being all magical and whatnot, and Morgan Freeman being God, basically. Yeah, we love that, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
I'm
let
here
let
for
me.
it.
I was gonna say, in terms of the just the conceit itself of introducing a new collection of illusionists. What are your thoughts on that component? Because that seems to be one of the main driving forces. I could be wrong, but just based off of what we saw in the trailer, one of the main conceits that they have with this new film.
So I feel like this is just Magic Fast and Furious. So so they gonna put these on. I feel like they're gonna keep making them Magic Fast and Furious. That's what we're gonna start calling this, Magic Fast and Furious. Um, they haven't introduced anybody that's like the Rock like character yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this is the movie where his character pops up, and you're like, oh wow, that's very cool. Maybe like one of them muscly wrestlers, like your boy probably, John Cena.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
But I
Uh,
guess he's already in this picture. You just can't see him. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
wow, wow. But I'll say this: like when it comes to this franchise, um, th- it- the first film was interesting enough, but I will also say when we're talking about this franchise that I feel like it jumped the shark, so to speak. After the first film, I feel like there's certain franchises that they're perfectly fine just being a solo outing, but sometimes what'll happen is the initial film would be it ends up being such a surprise hit that the studio kind of like rushes to get another film off the ground. And a good example of that, I talk about it all the time, is the whole 9 yards. I love the first film, but the whole 10 yards I feel like is nowhere near as good as the first film. And it would have been perfectly fine if we just had the whole 9 yards and never had a sequel. So I feel like it's another case of that where, and they could prove me wrong with this third film, but the second film doesn't, I feel like doesn't really hold up to how fun the first film was. And I feel like it would have been enough for the first film just to be it and to never have another film after that. You may disagree with me, but I feel like we have cases of that when we're talking about certain franchises where j- they jumped the shark after the first film and need to kind of rest on their laurels and be cool with the fact that, yeah, we made an awesome film. Let's leave it at that. There's not much else that we can do with this story by continuing on with a sequel or another film. But maybe with this third film, considering how people felt about the second film, that they are able to address some of those things and change people's minds when it comes to this franchise. Any last thoughts before we hop into a connecting story in our film and TV talk?
Me,
Oh, hold on, go ahead.
I feel like you're giving the Now You See Me crowd a bad vibe. I mean, a film like I'm telling you, this is Fast and Furious of magic. They're going to make a million of these, so get used to it. It's not going to be anything like the second movie, because the second movie they were like, maybe we can still make money with this, and they did enough to make a third movie. So by the time you get to three, it's a franchise. We're going to be seeing these people a lot. So I just think that you just got to get ready for it, Brandon. I'm sorry. I feel you, but it's coming back again. It's going to be great.
We will see. We will see. Switching. moving on to our film and TV talk, I'm going to leave up what we have for Now You See Me, Now You Don't, because we have a connecting story in that regard. So, in remaining on that subject, Now You See Me and Now You Don't, which had its trailer drop this past Tuesday. I apologize if I forgot to mention that, but yes, had its trailer drop this past Tuesday, which we mentioned, talked about just moments before. The film executed an unusual publicity tactic. So, let me see if I can get this up for you guys. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share it. Let's see here. Here we go. Let me know if you guys can see it. Here we go. All right. So I'm going to put this up now. So if you can see there, while it's not unusual to have a film ask you to register for their ad campaign, it is unusual when they send you $119 for doing so. On Tuesday, as I said, Lionsgate launched a giant billboard in Times Square, New York City. The same day the trailer for the new film was released. On the billboard, people could see the words "Now You See Me" and a graphic of falling money bills stacking up in a pile, along with a phone number and a 1 hour countdown. Once the countdown hit zero, the billboard filled to reveal the word or words "Now You Don't." Fans who texted or called the number received a link to the trailer and $119.16. According to the screenshots that you guys see here, Lionsgate gave away $250,000 in digital payments to celebrate the trailer for what is the third film in the Heist franchise. The studio added that the gifts were courtesy of the Four Horsemen, the group in the film that uses their magical tricks to stage a series of elaborate heists. Spillman, your thoughts on this creative publicity strategy?
When I told you that this is Fast and Furious of magic, you didn't believe me. You were just talking about the movie. You forgot all about how they magically gave people $119. That's incredible. Wow.
So,
Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you beat the tariffs. If you pay people to come and watch a movie. You see that? That's how you
oh
think with your big
boy.
brain. That's why
Oh
this is
boy.
Fast and Furious of magic. It's incredible, ladies and gentlemen. Brandon's not ready. Brandon's not ready.
I mean, I'll say this: no matter how I feel about the franchise itself, there is something to be said about doing something like this, because let's be honest, the pastime of going to the movies has not been the same for a long time. There have been a number of factors, and we've talked about it previously at nauseum at other shows, and just talking about how when we're talking about the movie going process, or the movie going, as I said, pastime. I remember a time, and Spielman, you can vouch for me on this. I remember a time that you could go to the movies for basically what we pay for a McDonald's meal, or a what is it, a la carte chicken sandwich purchase at a Chick-fil-A. So like $8 or $9, you were good to go to be able to go to the movies, right?
$5
And
movies, ladies and gentlemen. $5. I remember when $9 was like, I better have some 3D glasses with that $9 purchase.
But
What you
I'm,
mean I
I'm
gotta
just
break
saying
at
though.
20?
I'm just saying, because like, even when we're talking about that, um, of course, you had instances where there were other features that a theater, that a movie theater would have, right? So you
Yes,
had
sir.
those situations where we had like the audience level, or what is it, the auditorium style seating that started to come in those like 2000s. So the prices started to creep up a little bit. There were some premium theaters out there that they would bring the food to you, which these days are far more commonplace. But I remember when that was something special, that you were like, oh, I'm going to this really fancy movie theater that's offering me food and serving me food. Like, that used to be a separate experience instead of the main experience. And then fast forward to streaming, now having streaming and folks having the ability to see, premium, high quality content in the comfort of their home. And it's not to say that we didn't have it to a degree. I mean, we had cable, we had HBO, we had Showtime, we had all these shows that had different series, right? But as we started to get into some of those really high octane series that had high production values, like your Game of Thrones or your Walking Dead, and we started to get some, shows on streaming that were up to snuff in terms of the quality of the content. If we're talking about Stranger Things, um, that we started to slowly see a shift where people were far more comfortable watching their content at home versus going out to the movies. And that got exasperated, of course, when we got the pandemic. That I feel like that sped up that clock of folks uh, being into the content that they had at home versus going out. Um, we're in a very now interesting place with cinemas where I still enjoy the movie going experience. I still enjoy being able to check out movie trailers before film. I want to be able to go to a movie and not miss movie trailers. I feel like that's a part of the experience. I miss, I enjoy that smell of popcorn and different snacks and things that you get when you're going to the movies. And let's be honest, now a lot of theaters that are getting fewer and fewer audience members are now also raising their prices, because not only are they getting fewer people going to the movies, they feel like they probably have to compete with other theaters with all of these premium types of services, whether it's serving food or doing 3D glasses or being in IMAX, which undoubtedly also raise the price. And now these days, I feel like going to the movies is a rare occurrence, and it's an expensive pastime versus, a cheaper, form of entertainment. So I don't know what your thoughts are on it are, but it is great to see something like this that encourages people to be able to go to the movies and be excited about the movies again.
Give me $119. That's what I take from this. And 60 cents. I don't want you to cheat me out. It was 119.60. That's what I want. Put it in my hand. I would be so happy. But
For
yeah,
sure.
I agree.
For sure. And just as you saw, there are two other stories that we had there for film and TV talk. So another component of it centered around Anthony Michael Hall and joining the cast of Wednesday season 2. Bringing that up for you guys now, which is pretty awesome to say the least. And this was an exclusive from Variety. According to the article, the 80s and 90s icon known for his roles in such classics such as 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, and Edward Scissorhands will be joining the series, which features Jenna Ortega in the title role of the psychic Addams Family daughter in a yet undisclosed role. The second season of the series, which dropped its first season back in, this is crazy, guys, back in November of 2022. I remember when the series came out. It's crazy to believe that it's been a couple of years now, but it will launch on Netflix in 2 parts, set to drop on August 6th and on September 3rd. Spillman, your thoughts on Anthony Michael Hall joining Wednesday season 2? Oh, you muted, man. Go
I'm
ahead.
muted. I don't watch the show. I know it's a big. How could you? It's the best show on the internet. I know that everybody loves it. I know everybody loves it. I was trying to be pure to Christina Ricci and just remember her. That's my Wednesday. That's my Wednesday. But no, I think this is a great addition. Anthony Michael Hall is pretty cool. I imagine, is he Fester? Did they already have Fester in the show, or Fester
Yeah,
was not in the show?
they already had Fester on the show.
So
So
who is he going to be? I don't know who he's going to be. Who is he going to be?
I do have a theory. I'll say first that I do find it cool to have Anthony Michael Hall join the show, because I don't know if you're privy to this, Spills, but Tim Burton is the executive producer and the director on the show.
Hmm.
And if those that are your cinephiles out there, you'll know that that Burton actually worked with Hole years ago on Edward Scissorhands back in 1990. So it's been, gosh, 35 years. But so they already kind of have a synergy and a working, relationship together of working together. Um, Based on what has transpired in the first season, and I'll be honest with you too, Spills. Like I hopped onto the Wednesday ride. I hopped onto watching that show far later than many other people. It was actually like not not too long ago, and was able to kind of binge through the show, and it has a lot of qualities of, I want to say, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or Stranger Things. It has a lot of those same qualities in terms of its vibe. So um I feel like you would take to it. It's far darker. I mean, I feel like they kind of initially promoted as a what is it, a YA type of show, YA being like a young adult show, but they have some pretty mature things that happen in that show. So like I feel like it is far more adults than they may try to give it credit for. Considering what transpired with one of the faculty members, one of the primary faculty members at that school, I have a feeling that Anthony may be hopping into that role of the head of the school. Because I mean, I don't want to get into any spoilers. I know the show has been out for a couple of years now, but I feel like you will enjoy this. Those that have not seen it, you'll enjoy the show if you aren't spoiled and able to kind of see it freshly. But based on what transpired with one of those faculty members, I feel like he is going in there as a replacement for that said character, because that character was such a robust type of major component of season one that you need someone who's equally iconic to be able to replace them. And I feel like he would be able to replace that said character in that said role. I have no proof of this, but I have a feeling that that's what he will be. He will take over that role for that said character at, what was it, Nevermore Academy. But if you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Spillman, get on that, sir. Got to check it out, dude.
Oh
Um,
yes, for sure.
but what about you guys out there? Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that said series, and having this casting edition of Anthony Michael Hall join the show. Now, in wrapping up what we had with film and TV talk, we're going to talk about a little Marvel film that made its release this past weekend. I know Spillman didn't have a chance to check it out, but I did, and that film is, of course, none other than Thunderbolts. So, in bringing
Quick
that up,
question. Quick
yes,
question.
yes.
Did Marvel achieve what their mission actually was with this movie? The mission was to make a better Suicide Squad than the Suicide Squad with Starro in it.
I will say this. Um, I wasn't expecting that much out of Thunderbolts. I'll be completely honest with you, considering the track record of Marvel thus far, where it's been very mid, to be sure. But I enjoyed Thunderbolts far more than I anticipated I would. But before I get into my likes and dislikes, just to give a brief synopsis for those that are not aware of the film, and this is a synopsis. The characters that you see here find themselves ensnared in a death trap, an uh, uh, unconventional team of anti-heroes who, again, you see here, must embark on a dangerous mission that will force them to confront the darkest corners of their past. So in talking about this film, we have a mishmash of a lot of characters that have popped up from prior movies, from prior television shows. Of course, we have Red Guardian and Yelena, aka Black Widow, from the Black Widow film. We have Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp. We have Taskmaster from Black Widow. We have U.S. Agent from Falcon and Winter Soldier, and of course we have Winter Soldier, who has popped up in a whole bunch of shows. Of course, he have Falcon and Winter Soldier, but he's been in a number of cinematic features as well, whether we're talking about Civil War or his own film, The Winter Soldier. Now, to address what you were talking about, Spillman, I tell you what, I'll go into my negatives first because I want to be able to wrap it up with some positives. My negatives is that the publicity for this film was a mixed bag. I know we were just talking about the situation with Now You See Me and Now You Don't. And when we're talking about the publicity, you want to do something that's creative, something that's memorable, that gets people to be curious about the film. And while there were some things that they did do when we're talking about A24, that A24 type of indie trailer that they did for this film, there were other strategies that were utilized that spoiled components of the movie. It's been talked about a lot on social media, but they definitely, with what they have utilized with some of the promotion for Thunderbolts, with some of the promotion of Marvel films that are still on the way, that include or have revealed that the Thunderbolts will be in it, they undoubtedly spoil a component of the film where if you put two and two together, you can figure out, oh, okay, like you're saying this because of you not including this in this said promotional material. So, and with that being said, in talking about that thing that they spoiled, they do one character very, very dirty. I'm not going to say who. I just feel like they do him real dirty, considering what has been done with the character before. They do him very dirty in this film, and that kind of made me mad. But in talking about the positives, the team dynamics and the banter is really fun. It's surprisingly emotional and heartfelt. I know that they were talking about them trying to address their demons, and me talking about the synopsis there. But yeah, like it was surprisingly, emotional when we're talking about these anti-heroes that have very dark dark past, so to speak, and things that they have done prior to this point to where we see them in this film. Um, and then another thing that we do talk about a lot when we're talking about Marvel films, and you'll appreciate this, Spillman, is that they don't undercut a lot of the humor. Or I should say, they don't undercut a lot of the serious moments with humor. I know we've talked about that with a lot of other Marvel films, in that what'll happen is they will have the serious moment that is happening in this film, and what will happen is they will try to do something really funny or goofy to kind of break up the monotony with this said film. So once you have a chance to see it, I'll just say, like, that is one thing that I feel like they have listened to audiences, that while it's great to have a lot of humor in your said project, you need to allow the serious or dramatic moments to kind of fall on their own, and to not undercut them with humor, because sometimes you still need those dramatic moments, or those serious moments for your story. So I don't know if you had any other questions or any other thoughts. There are two post-credit scenes. I will also say that. So they do have a mid-credit scene that is kind of doesn't really have anything to do with the story per se. It's more of a character moment. And then the last post-credit scene is something that is more in line with carrying the story forward. Um, uh, Especially with the upcoming films that we have coming up, when we're talking about Avengers Doomsday and a couple of other films. So they do have something in line with that of moving the story forward. I tried to be as general as possible, because I didn't want to get into major spoilers. I know a lot of people are seeing it for the first time this weekend, and I feel like it would still be too fresh to, or to say too new to be able to dive into some of those spoilers. But did you have any other questions before we get into our main topic?
No, just go Thunderbolts. Obviously, there is no big bad like Starro, possibly the scariest
Oh
comic
no,
book
there
thing
is a
ever.
big bad. I will
No,
say
that's
that.
it. Not as scary as a starfish that fly on your face, take over your brain. I don't think that there's
I
anything
don't
that's scary.
know. I don't know.
We'll see.
There's a character in here that could give some go on being one of the abilities that they have, and what they're the damage that they're able to do. So I would hold out on that thought, and check it out, because we do have a character in there who is a well known character from the comics, and has a checkered history in terms of his psychosis. Who Even despite his psychosis, he is quite dangerous, which actually makes him all the more dangerous because of how unstable he is as a character. So that's all I'll say. For those that really that know the clues and hints that have been thrown in the promotional material, you'll know who I'm talking about. But yeah, let's just say that he can give Superman some go. So um, seriously, seriously.
That's not
Uh,
scary though. That's just a guy that could make your head pop off your body. I'm not scared of that. I'm scared of being taken over by the crazy aliens that made to do what their crazy alien plans are. That's scary.
but again, getting into spoiler, not I'm trying to avoid spoilers. Let me say, he has capabilities that are akin to Superman, but also akin to a couple of other characters that are psionic. So I will get into that. That's all I'll say without getting into further detail. So yes, he's able to do all those Superman esque things, but he has a lot more tricks up his sleeve than that, which makes him far more sinister. So that is going to do it for what we have with our film and TV talk. We're going to move on to our. Let me see if I can get this up here. We're going to move on to our main topic, which you saw in the background with Six Flags here. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, Six Flags America is unfortunately coming, to an end later this year, November 2nd to be exact. This was announced by the Six Flags America CEO, Richard Zimmerman, this past Thursday. The park's closure was simply a financial decision. And he essentially stated that he planned on putting the property's 500 acres up for sale. Just to give you a little background information on Six Flags America, initially it opened as a wildlife preserve and theme park in 1974, and while it was initially, named as the Largo Wildlife Preserve, would go on to be changed to Wild World. Um, Based on what I just mentioned just now in regards to a theme park, and would later change to Adventure World when it was acquired by Terrico Group in 1992, which later became Premier Parks. It was renamed again from Adventure World to Six Flags in 1999 when Six Flags Entertainment Corporation recreated the park, which would make it or I should say, which made it the 10th Six Flags Park when it was had its name changed back in 1999. So Spillman, it's been a long journey with this amusement park, whether it's been Wild World, whether it's been Adventure World, whether it's now been Six Flags. It's a lot of memories. What are your thoughts?
Um, I just think that, I've been very conspiratorial on today's episode, but I feel like this is just because we got some good news also last week that the Washington Commanders got approved for their stadium at the RFK site. And I think
Mhm.
that Daniel Snyder sold this park or got out of this park to spite the people of Washington D.C. because they were never going to give him that stadium at the RFK site, no matter how hard he acts, because of stuff like this. And he closed Six Flags. There's plenty of Six Flags parks that probably see they may see more traffic, but also they've dealt with bigger issues. So I don't see how Six Flags America is the one to go. I saw some of the newscasts this week that they were saying like, we didn't know that they was doing so bad that they needed help because they didn't need help. This is Six Flags. They print money. They don't,
Yeah.
they print money. It's like $50 to get in that place, just to walk around. They printing money in that place. I don't believe that they needed the money. I think that the Six Flags Corporation just wanted to separate themselves from this area because their owner got kind of kicked out of town. So he's divesting himself from this whole.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
sad to
yeah, for
see
some good.
that they're just divesting. They're just divesting. I'm sad to say that, but that's my 2 cents on it. Um, I know lots of people. This is their first job was at Six Flags, or you know, people try to point to isolate incidents of like the people who visit sometimes get a little crazy, but that happens everywhere in America. If you get big crowds of people together, eventually it's going to be some foolishness, but it's not an everyday thing, obviously. So,
It's not. I mean, I'll say this in talking about Six Flags. As I mentioned just a moment ago, I've as someone who was born and raised here in the DC metropolitan area, and things that have been staples in your upbringing and things that you enjoy growing up. I have seen the entire journey, with this amusement park. I remember when it was Wild World. That was the first time that I had an opportunity to go to that amusement park, and Wild Worlds when they had maybe a couple of water slides. They had a couple of other rides. I didn't even know about the wildlife preserve component even prior to that. That was before my time, but
that's
at
before
least
our
for
time, baby.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. At least talking about the Wild World component of it, I do remember that. I have a lot of memories of going down a lot of those slides, of a lot of the amusement park food, whether we're talking about funnel cake or the Italian ice, the slushies and all that, and um, even its journey as it changed into other things when it became Adventure World and they added more coasters, they added more slides, and then it eventually becoming Six Flags. There have been so many trips, whether it's been family trips, whether it's been school trips, um uh uh birthday parties, like so many different memories across rides, across all types of experiences with this park. And so it's a bummer to see it go. They did talk about in a recent story with Fox 5 that apparently this that space is zoned to be an amusement park. So even if Six Flags leaves, they are inclined to changing into something else that falls within that category. So I know there has been a lot of talk in terms of it becoming housing development or townhomes or things like that. Uh, it was confirmed by, I want to say it was what is it, Zone 6 council member um,
Mhm.
talking about a lot of people don't really need to be concerned with that because it's not zoned to be a housing development. It is zoned to actually be a place, an amusement park. So they need to have something comparable there, even if they don't have Six Flags there. Something comparable that falls within that same category in that space. And if they ended up making it a housing development, they would have to go through a whole process of rezoning it into something else in order for it to be allowed to be a housing complex. But at the end of the day, Six Flags is such a staple of that area in terms of bringing revenue, and being a landmark in that said area of bringing people, from outside of PG County to that area, that it would be hard to imagine them not to try to figure out a, even if it's not Six Flags explicitly, figuring out a way to replace something there for them to have that is comparable to Six Flags. So that way they can still allow something to be there that had the same or had the same mission as Six Flags. So any thoughts, for you, maybe you had some memories that come to mind when you're talking about Six Flags,
I
or maybe
remember when
even
they
the other
opened the Six
iteration.
Flags. I remember when they opened the Six Flags. My uncle got on
Yeah.
the Two Face. You know how the
Uh-huh.
Two Face used to go back?
Uh-huh.
It got stuck.
Oh no. Oh, he was on the stuck one.
He
Oh
got
wow.
stuck. He got stuck, and he started to panic. And he tried to get himself out of the harness. And everybody was like, "Stop!
Right,
You
because
need
you're
to
gonna
calm
fall.
down." Because it was very much 30 feet in the air. It was like, "Sir, you need to calm down." But
Wow.
wow, wow, But obviously the Superman, at one time the biggest roller coaster in North America. Um, what do you think should replace it? Maybe. Well, what if Disney came here? What if they made a park here? They have one in France no one goes to. Why can't they have one here no
See,
one goes to?
I thought of that. I thought of that, but honestly, like, is there, if you're gonna really do Disney World or a offshoot of Disney World justice, is there enough space to be able to do something like that? Like, when we're talking about like Disney World or like Universal Studios, if memory serves, they're far bigger than than the number of acres that we have for Six Flags. So as much as I would like for that to happen, it's hard to imagine that actually happening, because even if they try to attempt that, a lot of people would say, "Oh, this is Universal Studios Light, or this is Disney World Light." Like, they wouldn't. It wouldn't have the same impact as some of the other locations. Like,
No, just call it Disney World, the ads version. If you want the better version, you got to pay more money, go to Orlando or go to Los Angeles. But this is the ads version. You just got to sit through the ads. Unfortunately, like we should just sell it that way. Just be like, hey guys, this is the entry level Disneyland,
yeah, I know, I know.
Disney Capital. That's what they call it, Disney Capital, and then it could be DC.
No, no, I hear you. I mean, as I said, so a lot of memories. Whether we're talking about the wave, what is it, the wave pool that you had there, whether we're talking about the slides that are over there, the multicolored slides that they had. I think that had been around even in the first iteration when we're talking about Wild World. It survived Wild World, it survived Adventure World, and it was still around for Six Flags. Even though they called it Six Flags and gave it a new name, um, there were some things that rides that ended up surviving through all of those iterations. Whether we're talking about those, as I said, those slides, and a couple of the I think it was like the water ride. There was a water ride that they had that was like a wooden water ride. You know what I'm talking about? Where
Like a
like they
lazy
actually had,
river.
yeah, they had the platform that you could actually, you don't even need to get on the ride. You can just get wet from the
Hmm.
ride.
Hmm.
That was around through all the iterations, whether it was Wild World, whether it was Adventure World, whether it was Six Flags. So yeah, yeah. It will be a bummer to see it go. I'll be interested to see what marketing they'll utilize in order to kind of take advantage of this, last hurrah, so to speak. I'd imagine that that Halloween iteration of Six Flags, 'cause they've been known to do that during their season, will probably be quite memorable. They'll probably pull out all the stops, and on top of them pulling out all the stops, I have a feeling that, unlike other times of the other occasions where they've had Six Flags like Halloween, that it's going to be packed, because that's going to be essentially probably the last time that people will have a chance to enjoy Six Flags. So, uh,
Gonna
So
miss it, ladies and gentlemen.
we'll miss it. Yeah, for sure gonna miss it.
I think
So
my
that
boy Darren worked there for like 4 summers. Did you have any friends that worked there? Shout out to any of your friends that worked at the Six
yeah, I had a
Flags.
couple of friends that worked there. And I want to say the ones that did, they none of them worked on the rides. They worked on more of like the concession side. So like they
Mm,
would do like the funnel cakes, or they would do like the cotton candy or some of the other things, or in some of the stores that they had when selling the souvenirs and things. So those were the ones that come to mind currently. But yeah, like as I said, so many memories with the rides. It was there were memories of just being able to pull up to, when you were a kid, just pulling up to the entrance of the amusement park. Oh, like wow, we're here. We're at Wild World. We're at Adventure World. We're at Six Flags. Like there was excitement just being able to pull up to the actual entrance and the signage. So but yeah, that's gonna do it for this week's episode of This Week in Pop Culture. I want to thank you guys so much for watching the show with us, or I should say, checking out the show with us and talking about some of the things that went down this past week. Before I go, of course, I'm gonna punt it over to Spills, aka Lakers fan. Spills, can you tell folks where they can find you, sir?
well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, Brandon's talking very tough for someone who's going into a game 7 today. I just want you to
But we're
remember,
still playing,
but it's
and
still a
we
first
didn't get.
round.
No, but was it a gentleman's sweep?
It doesn't
Either way you
matter.
go.
Like I don't want to play the semantics of, well, we lost in 7 games. You also lost 3 in a row, so it was a gentleman's sweep at the end, which is
Oh.
worse. Which is worse. But ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on Truly Spill on Instagram. I'll chat with you there. This will work again. I still haven't figured it out. If you could help me, comment below. But see, Westbrook still got it, and the Warriors don't. They watch. They're gonna lose, ladies and gentlemen. They don't be sad when they do.
All
Back
right,
to you,
all right.
Brandon.
Well, we appreciate that bandwagon switch from Lakers to Nuggets as always, Spills. But
Wow.
you can
Wow. Wow. Wow.
we you can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and of course Brandon Choi _ ENT on Instagram. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, y'all, and see y'all soon.
Peace.
Nuggets bandwagon. Nuggets bandwagon.
No, I just said Westbrook play good. And he gonna turn it off right there.